I didn't even want to be at the damn party. It was one of those after-hours networking things, hosted by some marketing firm that was trying way too hard to be cool. Exposed brick, overpriced cocktails, ambient lighting that made you feel like you were inside someone's Instagram story. I had barely touched my drink and was already halfway out the door when my manager stopped me and introduced me to someone you have to meet. That someone was Adam. He was in software or fintech or something equally vague. All I caught was the way his tie was loosened just enough to look effortless, and how his laugh came from somewhere deep in his chest. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. Just enough for me to find out he was smart, confident, and way too attractive for me to act normal. Then we parted ways. Or we would have, if not for the elevator. The building was old, some converted warehouse with industrial charm, and apparently zero updates to its mechanical systems. I hit the down button and was about to step in when I saw him again, walking toward me, glass of whiskey still in hand. "You leavin' too?" he asked. "Trying to," I said, gesturing to the elevator, "if this relic cooperates." He smiled and we both stepped in. It was quiet as the doors closed, that in-between kind of quiet where you're aware of the space between you but not sure if you should fill it. Then the elevator lurched. Full-on horror movie jolt. It shook, dropped maybe a foot, and then nothing. The lights flickered. The button stopped responding. We looked at each other. Did that just... Yup. He pressed a few buttons. Nothing. He hit the emergency call. No sound, no response. Adam turned to me, completely calm. "Well, looks like we're getting the full downtown experience." I let out a breath, already picturing the headlines. Two young professionals slowly decompose an elevator while building staff parties upstairs. "I swear," I said, "if this thing starts playing elevator music, I'm climbing out through the ceiling." Adam laughed and leaned against the wall. "I think we're safe from that. It's too hipster for music." I tried my phone. No signal. "Great," I muttered. "Relax," he said. "It's kind of romantic if you think about it." I raised an eyebrow. "Being trapped?" "Unexpected intimacy," he said. "Think about it. We're two strangers who met at a boring party, and now we're stuck in a steel box, with nothing to do but talk." I looked at him more closely. Was he flirting? I leaned against the opposite wall. "Is that your move? Elevators?" "I don't plan these things," he said with a grin. "But I'm not mad about how it's playing out." There was a beat of silence, a charged one. I could feel the faint thrum of the elevator's emergency power, the air suddenly warmer than it had been a moment ago. He glanced down at the floor, then back up at me. "You don't remember me, do you?" That threw me. "Should I?" "3 years ago," he said. "Interview panel. You were the last one to ask questions. I was wearing a horrible blue tie." My brain clicked. "Shit. You're Adam Carver. You were applying for a junior dev role." He smiled. "Guilty. You ghosted. Got a better offer the same day." I always felt bad about that, actually. I stared at him, stunned. He looked completely different now. Sharper, more put together, and apparently still remembered me. "Well, you clearly landed on your feet," I said. "I did," he nodded. "But I always wondered what would have happened if I took that offer. If I'd run into you again." My pulse quickened. "Why?" He stepped a little closer, not in a threatening way, more like testing the space. "Testing me." "Because I liked the way you looked at me that day," he said, "and I've been trying to recreate it ever since." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. The elevator groaned slightly, not moving, just settling. But it reminded me where we were, locked in a box 8 floors above the street long after midnight. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to escape. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Like it was nothing and everything at once. And now I was hyper-aware of the space we were in. The walls felt closer, the air warmer. Every sound echoed just a little too loud in the stillness. I crossed my arms over my chest to do something with them, hoping he wouldn't notice the way my breath had shifted. Shallower. Quicker. My brain scrambled to find neutral ground, some line of small talk that would reset the moment. But he didn't give me the chance. "So," Adam said, sliding down the wall into a seated position on the floor, "how long do you think we'll be stuck here?" "I'm trying not to think about it," I muttered, following his lead and sitting down too. Opposite him, legs stretched out in front of me. "If I start counting minutes, I'll spiral." "Fair," he said. "You're not the panicking type, though." I tilted my head. "You got all that from one interview 3 years ago?" "No," he said with a soft grin. "I got that from watching you at the party tonight." I let out a breath. "You were watching me?" "Only a little," he said, and when I raised an eyebrow, he added, "Okay, a lot." He looked down at the floor for a moment, brushing invisible dust off his pant leg. "You looked like you wanted to disappear." "That obvious, huh?" He shrugged. "I think we were both kind of faking it tonight." I nodded. "It's easier sometimes, pretending you're cool with the noise, the fake smiles, the what do you do routine." He gave a short laugh. "I hate that question." "I work in product," I said, mimicking the flat, rehearsed tone that always came with that line. "I optimize user flows and quietly die inside." Adam grinned. "God, I feel that in my soul." "What about you?" I asked. "You said fintech?" "Yeah, kind of. I work at a startup that wants to revolutionize personal investing, but really, we're just building a shinier budget app." "Exciting?" "It's not," he laughed, "but it pays well. And sometimes I get to go to rooftop parties where I get trapped in elevators with guys I used to have a crush on." That last part slipped out too casually to be accidental. I swallowed. "Used to?" He looked up, met my eyes, and held my gaze longer than was polite. The hum of the emergency lights filled the silence, soft and steady like a heartbeat. "Maybe I still do," he said finally. I didn't know what to say to that. My first instinct was to laugh it off, deflect, steer back towards safer topics like app interfaces or elevator maintenance. But something in me didn't want to. So I asked the question that had been sitting at the edge of my thoughts since the doors first closed. "Are you always this forward?" He shrugged. "Only when I think I might not get another chance." There it was again. That honesty that didn't feel forced or performative. Just open. Bare. I shifted slightly, resting one elbow on my knee. "I don't really do this." "Do what?" "Flirt? Or whatever this is. Not like this." Adam tilted his head. "Is it weird that I'm being direct?" "No," I said. "It's just unexpected." We sat in that quiet again, the kind that's not awkward, but full of things neither of us had said yet. He looked down at his hands, his fingers tapped absently against his knee. "You don't have to say anything. I didn't mean to put you on the spot." "No," I said, too quickly. Then, more carefully, "I'm not uncomfortable." His eyes flicked up again, and for the first time, I noticed the edge of nervousness there. He wasn't just confident and charming. He was waiting for a signal, a response, anything. The weight of that realization settled over me, thick and strange. I wasn't used to being on the receiving end of this kind of attention. It wasn't that I never got noticed, but it had never been like this. So present. So real. "I remember your interview," I said, surprising even myself. He smiled a little. "You do?" "You were wearing this awful blue tie," Adam laughed, and the sound broke the tension in the air just enough to make me breathe easier. "It was a graduation gift," he said. "I thought it made me look serious. It made you look like you were auditioning for a game show." We both laughed, and the space between us shifted, softened. "You know," he said after a moment, "I almost took that job. I was this close, but the other one had a better mentor program, and I was fresh out of school, so—" "I get it," I said. "No hard feelings." He looked at me again, and this time there was something else in his expression. Something heavier. "I didn't forget you," he said. My throat went dry. "Why?" He shrugged, like he didn't know the answer himself. "Maybe because you were the only person in the room who didn't smile too much. You asked real questions. You looked at me like you actually gave a damn. I hadn't expected that, and I didn't realize until just then how much I wanted to hear something like that. How rarely people saw me instead of the job, the routine, the mask. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure." "Why'd you come talk to me tonight?" He hesitated for the first time. "Because I saw you standing there by the bar, checking your phone like it was a lifeline." And I thought, if I don't say something now, I'm going to walk out and regret it. My chest tightened. And maybe it was the heat of the elevator, or the fact that it was now past midnight and the world outside felt very far away. But suddenly, I wasn't so interested in getting out anymore. Not yet. We stayed sitting like that for a while. Opposite corners, legs stretched out, backs against the walls. Not saying anything, just letting it hang there. I couldn't remember the last time silence had felt like this. Not heavy, not awkward, just full, like a space waiting to be stepped into. Adam fidgeted with the cuff of his shirt. "I didn't expect this to feel so intimate," I offered. "Yeah." He looked up at me again. "Exactly." I smiled, then immediately felt self-conscious about it. Because it was intimate. Too much, too fast, but also not in a bad way. Just real. Maybe it was the hour. Maybe it was the way our phones had given up, and the city felt so far below us. Maybe it was the fact that we were both a little worn down from trying to be versions of ourselves all night for strangers. Or maybe it was just him. He leaned his head back against the elevator wall and closed his eyes for a moment. "You tired?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "A little. But in that good way, where it feels like you could finally fall asleep and actually rest." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I get that." He didn't open his eyes. "Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like you're hitting all the right marks, checking all the right boxes, but none of it feels like yours?" I blinked. That was a bit deeper than I expected from a malfunctioning elevator chat. But yeah, I did. More than I admitted, even to myself. "All the time," I said. He opened his eyes and looked over at me. "I thought so." I tilted my head. "What gave me away?" Adam gave a half shrug. "You were the only one at that party not trying to sell something." I let out a quiet laugh. "Probably because I didn't have anything good to sell." "No," he said. "That's the thing. You weren't trying to prove anything. That's rare." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just looked at him. His features were softer now in the emergency light, shadows playing along the curve of his jaw, catching in the mess of his hair. He looked less polished than he had earlier, more real, and I realized, weirdly, that I liked this version of him better. He stretched out his legs and shifted a little closer, just a few inches, until his foot brushed mine. He didn't move it away. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to." "It's okay," I said. We sat like that quiet point of contact anchoring us in place. "I used to think moments like this only happened in movies," he said after a while. "You know, two people stuck in some weird situation, all the noise stripped away, and they actually see each other." I swallowed. "Yeah. Except usually in the movies, the elevator starts moving again, right when things get good." Adam looked at me for a long second, like he was deciding whether or not to say the thing that was sitting at the edge of his thoughts. "I hope it doesn't," he said finally. That hit harder than I expected. "Yeah?" I asked. He nodded. "I mean, I'm not in a rush." I felt that in my chest, that flutter of anticipation. The slow burn of something waking up that I didn't realize had been asleep. "I keep thinking," he continued, "if I'd taken that job back then, would we have ended up here anyway?" "Probably not in an elevator," I said, smiling. "No," he agreed, "but maybe somewhere." I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't playing around, wasn't throwing out lines. This was him, stripped down, a little vulnerable, a little bold, and completely present. "Can I be honest?" I said. He leaned forward slightly. "Please, I'm not used to this. The attention, the honesty. Especially not from guys like you." His brows knit slightly. "Guys like me?" I hesitated. "You're confident, sharp, the kind of guy people notice." He gave a soft, almost sad smile. "Funny. I've always felt invisible in rooms like that." I blinked. "You're kidding." Nope. I've got the suit, the banter, the LinkedIn title. But most of the time, I feel like I'm just performing a version of myself that people expect to see. I sat with that for a second. Then, quietly, same. Something shifted in the air again. Not a jolt, not a lurch, just a settling. Like the elevator had finally stopped trying to move and just accepted where it was. And maybe that's what we were doing too. Adam rubbed his palms together and exhaled. So what happens now? I shrugged, feeling my pulse drum against my ribs. We wait, talk, or sit in silence and pretend we're not hoping the other person says something. He smiled again. Not the cocky one, not the practiced one, but a real, tired, soft smile. I like your voice, he said. I blinked. My voice? Yeah, it's calm. Like you mean what you say. It makes me feel like I can let my guard down. I felt heat rise in my chest. That's a dangerous thing to tell someone in a locked elevator. He leaned his head back again, eyes still on me. I'm trusting my instincts, he said, and they're telling me this feels different. It did. It really, really did. I didn't say anything for a few seconds, just let that sit between us. Then I said the one thing that felt honest and safe and maybe a little bit brave. I don't want out either. There was a moment right after I said it. I don't want out either, where neither of us breathed. Or maybe we were breathing, but it didn't feel like it. The air in the elevator suddenly seemed thicker, like it had weight, like the words were still suspended in it, waiting to fall between us. Adam stared at me, not shocked, just still. His eyes were locked on mine like he was afraid to look away and miss something. You mean that? He asked, quieter now, less playful, like he was making sure he wasn't imagining it. Yeah, I said, I mean it. His posture shifted, just slightly, less guarded, more grounded. I noticed the way his shoulders dropped, like he'd been holding himself in a certain way and finally decided to let go of it. I wasn't expecting this, he said. Same. I figured I'd see you at the party, maybe say hi, maybe awkwardly ask for your number. But this, he gestured around us. The elevator, the walls, the surreal glow of emergency lights. This gave me more time with you than I could have asked for. I let out a soft laugh. You say that like it's a good thing. It is, he said immediately, then, softer. It's rare to feel this, seen. Something about the way he said that landed in my chest like a stone dropped in water. Because, yeah, that was it. He saw me. Not just in the literal sense, but in that way that bypasses the surface-level stuff. The job, the appearance, the posturing, and goes straight to the core. I've been thinking a lot lately, I said, my voice low, about how lonely it is to be surrounded by people who don't actually know you. Adam nodded slowly. I know that feeling. It's like being in a crowded room where everyone's speaking a language you can't understand. Exactly. And then you meet someone, he continued, and suddenly you're fluent again. That made me smile. We fell into another silence, but this one was warmer. He shifted closer. Not all at once, just gradually, like testing the water. His knee brushed mine again, on purpose this time, and stayed there. I didn't move. He looked down at where our legs touched, then up at me again. I'm not usually like this. Like what? This open. Me neither. That seemed to ease something in him. A shared secret. A small agreement. We were both out of our depth here. But neither of us wanted to climb back to the surface just yet. He leaned his head against the wall, eyes half-lidded. You know what's weird? What? I've been on so many first dates where everything felt scripted. Like we were reciting lines we'd practiced 100 times. I've had those, I said. The ones where you smile, ask about their dog, and try not to sound like a job interview. But this, he said, turning his head slightly to face me, this doesn't feel like a first anything. It feels like a middle. Like we already know each other somehow. I considered that. Maybe because we skipped all the performative bullshit. Maybe because I wanted to talk to you for real the moment I saw you. I felt heat creep up my neck, he noticed. Sorry, he said quickly. I'm laying it on thick. No, I said. You're not. It's just No one really talks to me like that. He looked confused. Why not? I laughed quietly. I think I give off, don't bother, energy. Well, I'm bothering, he said with a soft smile. I met his eyes, and suddenly I felt that shift again. That pull. He noticed it too. I could tell by the way his lips parted slightly, like he wanted to say something but couldn't decide if it was the right time. But then again, when is the right time when you're stuck in a box with a guy who suddenly makes you question why you've been going through life half asleep? He didn't speak. Instead, he slowly reached across the space between us, his fingers hesitating just above my knee. Can I? The question was soft, careful, almost unsure. And that's what made it feel safe. I nodded. His hand settled gently, a quiet kind of touch, like he wasn't trying to make a move so much as anchor himself to something real. Okay? He asked again, eyes searching mine. Yeah, I said, quieter than before. It's okay. For a while, we just sat like that, his hand resting on my leg, the hum of the lights filling the space around us, the weight of whatever was building between us pressing gently, not demanding to be named, just felt. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to break it. But eventually I spoke. I don't think this is just elevator chemistry. He smiled, eyes crinkling just slightly. Is that a thing? I mean, it is now. He laughed, then looked down at his hand on my knee, almost like he was surprised it was still there. Does this end when we get out? He asked, voice softer now. I looked at him. No, I said. I don't want it to. He breathed out like he'd been holding something back. Something fragile. His thumb moved slightly against my leg, a subtle little gesture that felt more intimate than anything else had so far. Me neither. I don't know how long we sat like that. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been an hour. Time felt different in that elevator, like it had loosened its grip on us a little. Adam's hand was still on my knee. Light, steady, not moving except for that slow graze of his thumb now and then. Every time he did it, I felt it echo in my chest. Can I ask something kind of dumb? He said suddenly. I turned toward him. Sure. Do you think we would have talked like this if we'd just seen each other in the hallway? I paused. Probably not. He nodded like he already knew that. Yeah, me neither. Not because I wouldn't have wanted to, I added quickly, but because I would have assumed you weren't interested. His eyebrows lifted. Why? I shrugged. You've got that whole confident thing. Like, cool guy who's already got someone. I figured you were taken. Or straight. Adam laughed, low and warm. Definitely not straight, and definitely single. Well, that makes one of us wrong, I said, smiling. He looked at me then. Really looked. Like he was seeing me for the first time, but also like he already knew what was there. It was intense. But not in a way that made me want to look away. If anything, I felt my body leaning slightly forward before I even realized I was doing it. You do that a lot, he said. What? Underestimate yourself. I opened my mouth to deflect, make a joke, brush it off. But nothing came out, because he wasn't wrong. And something about the way he said it made it impossible to ignore. You don't even realize, he added. You're smart, observant, hot. I let out a startled laugh. Okay, now you're laying it on thick. Not really, he said, more serious now. I just think someone should say that to you, out loud. No sarcasm, no caveats. I didn't know what to do with that. Compliments usually made me uncomfortable. But the way he said it, no pressure, no expectation, made me want to let it land. I looked down at his hand on my leg. Still there, still warm. You've got a dangerous kind of charm, you know that? He smirked. Yeah, but only when the elevator's broken. I snorted. He shifted his weight, sitting up a little straighter. I keep thinking maybe this is what was supposed to happen. Like, if I'd taken that job 3 years ago, maybe we would have become work friends. Or maybe it would have fizzled out. But this, getting stuck here? You think it's fate? I asked. He gave a small shrug. I don't know. I don't believe in destiny or whatever, but I do believe in timing. And something about this feels right. I nodded slowly. Because yeah, it did. It felt weirdly perfect. The timing, the quiet, the vulnerability. neither of us would have shown at a party or over drinks or even on a first date. If we had met in a more typical way, maybe we would have just danced around the attraction until it fizzled out. But this space, this stupid, broken elevator, had forced us to stop pretending. And I didn't want to go back to pretending. He looked at me again, a little more serious now. I'm gonna do something, and you can tell me to stop. I mean it. I froze. Okay. Then, carefully, like he was testing every inch of space between us, he leaned in. Not fast, not dramatic, just slowly. His hand slid from my knee to my wrist. A soft touch, grounding. And then he was close enough that I could feel his breath. I didn't pull away. He paused, maybe an inch from my face. His eyes locked on mine. "This okay?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, it's okay." So he kissed me. And it was exactly what I didn't know I had been waiting for. Not rushed, not messy, just warm and slow and unshy. His mouth moved against mine with this quiet confidence that made my whole body relax into it. Like he wasn't trying to prove anything. Just feel it. My hand came up to his shoulder, fingers resting there like I needed the contact to remind me this was actually happening. When we finally pulled apart, we stayed close, foreheads nearly touching, breathing the same tiny space of air. "Well," he said, smiling slightly. "Guess we're officially elevator guys now." I let out a breathy laugh. "Think we get a membership card or something?" He pulled back enough to look at me properly. "Only if it comes with a second date." My heart skipped. "You want one?" "Yeah," he said. "I want all of it. Real conversations, awkward silences, weird elevator stories we'll never be able to tell anyone without sounding like liars." I laughed, but it caught in my throat a little. "I want that too." The elevator creaked, not moving yet, but it reminded me the world outside still existed. But in that moment, I couldn't have cared less. Because I wasn't ready to leave this box. Not yet. The kiss had changed something. Not in a dramatic, fireworks kind of way. It wasn't like we suddenly became different people, but in that subtle shift where everything that came next felt a little more true. A little more unfiltered. We'd crossed a line. Or maybe we'd just erased it. Adam stayed close, his fingers still lightly curled around my wrist like he wasn't quite ready to let go. I didn't want him to, either. I glanced at the buttons on the panel across from us. All of them were still dark. The elevator hadn't moved an inch. "I wonder if anyone even knows we're stuck," I said. Adam followed my gaze. "We could probably be in here all night. Should we, I don't know, start a fire and make a home?" He grinned. "You get the firewood, I'll build the fort." "Seriously, though," I added, shifting so our legs were now fully touching. "You good? I mean, you're not freaking out on the inside?" He shook his head. "Not even close." "Why not?" He gave me a look, a soft, steady one that made my chest tighten. "Because I'd rather be here right now than anywhere else." I didn't answer right away. Just watched the way he looked at me like he meant it. Like this wasn't just some fluke or a passing flirtation sparked by too much quiet and too little oxygen. "Me too," I finally said. We sat back, side by side this time, our shoulders touching. The air was warmer now. Probably from us, or the lack of circulation, or maybe the way everything felt a little more electric since the kiss. Adam rested his head against the metal wall behind us. "So, what now? After this, you mean?" "Yeah. Like when the doors open and the real world rushes back in?" He nodded. "Exactly that." I let out a slow breath. "We get dinner. Yeah? Somewhere that isn't a party or a networking event? Somewhere I can actually hear you talk." Adam smiled. "I like that." "We order something messy." "Pasta, probably. Something we'll regret immediately." "Excellent. What else?" "I walk you home." "Oh, we're doing the walk home thing," he said, teasing. "Yes. And I say something slightly awkward at your doorstep." "Like what?" "Like, I had a really good time, and I want to see you again." But I'll say it too fast, and you'll have to pretend you didn't hear it the first time. He laughed, the sound low and warm. Then I kiss you, I said. Oh? Yeah, I said. I kiss you, but not like in here. It'll be tentative and shy, and I'll probably mess up the timing. Adam turned his head to look at me. And then? And then we do this for real, I said. No party versions of ourselves, just us. He stared at me for a long second. You've thought about this. Honestly, I'm thinking about it right now. He leaned in, resting his forehead against mine. You're dangerous. I'm honest. That's worse. He murmured, and then he kissed me again. It was slower this time, more deliberate. The kind of kiss that tasted like a beginning, not an accident, not a reaction, a choice. And I kissed him back, fully aware of every point of contact. The heat of his skin, the way his hand slid up the side of my neck, the way we both exhaled through our noses when we realized neither of us wanted to stop. Eventually, we did. But we didn't move away from each other. We just sat there, forehead to forehead, eyes closed. I feel like I've known you longer than 2 hours, Adam said quietly. Elevator time's different, I said. It multiplies everything. He chuckled. That explains a lot. We stayed like that for a while, no talking. Just breathing in the same quiet air. It felt like we were suspended in something. Not time, not space, just this. I didn't want it to end. But then, inevitably, something shifted. There was a loud click, a mechanical hum, and just like that, the panel lit up. We both looked toward the buttons as the elevator shuddered, then jerked softly as it began to descend. It was slow, cautious. Like even the elevator knew this moment didn't need to be rushed. Adam pulled away just enough to meet my eyes. Guess it's happening, he said. Yeah. The floor numbers blinked. 6, 5, 4. He reached over and took my hand, threading his fingers through mine. I don't want this to fade when we get out. It won't, I said. Not if we don't let it. The elevator slowed. 3, 2. I squeezed his hand, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't nervous about what came next. The elevator reached the ground floor with a soft jolt, like it was nudging us back into reality. The kind of nudge that says, okay, that was cute, now what? The doors didn't open immediately. Instead, they let out a tired mechanical groan, like even they weren't ready to end the moment. Adam and I looked at each other, fingers still interlaced, neither of us moving. Last chance to stay in here forever, he said, half a joke, half not. I smiled. Tempting. Then the door slid open with an anticlimactic ding. The lobby was empty. Quiet. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly. It was past 1 in the morning now. The front desk unstaffed, the building half asleep. We didn't rush to leave the elevator. For a few seconds, we just stood there, still inside, looking out at the dim hallway, as if the world had tilted slightly during our time in that steel box. It probably had. Okay, Adam said, finally stepping out. I followed. The cool air of the lobby hit me like a reminder. Life, outside that capsule of connection, was still going. The city hadn't paused for us, but it felt like it had. Adam turned toward me, hands in his pockets now, trying to play casual, but I could tell in the way his eyes kept flicking up to mine, he wasn't quite sure how to act either. You still want that messy pasta dinner? He asked. Yeah, I said. Maybe tomorrow night? He nodded, smiling. Tomorrow night. There was a beat. That end-of-a-date hesitation, where both people are standing just close enough to wonder if the moment is still open or already over. Then he stepped forward. Not urgently, not dramatically, just confidently. His hands found my waist, and he leaned in for one last kiss. This one was gentler. No rush, no build-up. Just the quiet, soft kind that says, I'm really into this, and I'm going to prove it. I let my hand slide into the pockets of his coat as we kissed. Slow and easy, and when we pulled back, there was no awkwardness, no weird tension, just warmth. We're going to have to lie to people about this, aren't we? I said. Absolutely, he replied. No one's going to believe we kissed for the first time in a stuck elevator. I laughed. We'll say we met at a wine bar or something. I'll back your story, he said, giving me a wink, but I'm keeping the elevator version for myself. I walked him to the building doors, where the street outside was quiet and washed in yellow from the street lamps. His rideshare was already pulling up. He turned to me one more time. Hey, he said, don't overthink this. I won't, I said. You either. He nodded once, then got in the car. I stood there and watched it drive away, disappearing down the block until the taillights blinked around the corner. I took a breath. The lobby felt too bright now, too artificial. I stuffed my hands in my pockets and looked back toward the elevator, still open, like it hadn't quite let go of the night either. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Adam. Adam can confirm. No elevator-related PTSD, just residual butterflies. I smiled like an idiot. I replied, residual butterflies are completely normal. Symptoms may include smiling at nothing, spontaneous pasta cravings, and irrational urges to kiss in elevators. Adam, might need treatment. Dinner tonight? You bring the tie. I'll bring the awkward doorstep moment. Adam, deal. We did dinner that night, and a few nights after that. There were no more elevators involved. No more broken mechanics or emergency lights. Just real conversations over half-eaten pasta. Laughter that echoed off restaurant walls. Hands finding each other under tables. The kind of slow burn that doesn't fizzle out after the first spark. Sometimes I think back to that night, the steel box, the silence, the red glow, the kiss. It felt like something out of a script, but it wasn't. It was just us, stuck in a place we didn't expect, saying things we'd normally be too afraid to say. And sometimes, when I'm riding alone in an elevator, I remember how it felt to look across a few feet of floor and see someone who saw me. Really saw me. And for once, I didn't want out.